Hello, at the end of this video, I hope you are able to justify the importance of meetings within what is teamwork and also that you differentiate the objectives of 4 types of meetings that are often given throughout the life or the life cycle of a team. The interaction of the people of the team can be carried out in a synchronous manner through meetings or calls, face-to-face meetings, video calls, phone calls, or in a synchronous way, using individual tasks that more or less are linked to each other. This type of interaction, or the percentage that there is between meetings and calls and individual tasks, will depend on the type of interaction that we have in the team, which is normally going to depend on the type of tasks that we have to address, on the people who make up the team, on the resources that we have, and on other variables. But as it were, when we are working in a team, we need to get together because it is very difficult to keep people aligned, having clear goals and working all converging towards those goals, or motivated or cohesive, simply through the tools that we have of simultaneous communication, for example, like email. I feel the need to get together to say that with email we cannot clarify ourselves. That is, you end up saying, "Hey, why don't we stay a day and talk?" Or "Why don't I call you?" Or "Why don't you call me?" And we clarify it because it will be faster than exchanging. Well, if you have perceived these sensations, what it does is that we have the need to get together when we are in a team, and the more people it implies, or the more complex the task that we have to perform, probably this demand of that synchronous meeting or that call or that synchronous interaction between the team members will be much more important or more relevant. We are going to see some types because each of them has a goal. I have separated you into 4 types of meetings. Some are more frequent than others, but that necessarily all teams should go through these types of meetings at some point in their work process. I have marked you with an asterisk the initial meetings because then I will give you a detail, some special details of these, because there are meetings that have a very special aspect and that mark the operation of how we are going to work later and condition the success of the team a lot. That is why I am going to give you some specific details of them, and each of these meetings has specific objectives. For example, the initial meetings are fundamentally focused on building relationships between people. The main idea of initial meetings is the launch of a project, or it is the moment in which the team is formed and we build ourselves and we are going to be a more permanent team. We are going to have to understand what the team function is, why they have created us, and what we are going to achieve, and also learn those tools that we need to work in a team. However, when we have meetings of work in the operation of the team, our main objectives will be, first of all, to solve the issues that we have pending on the agenda, and then the draft of the agenda of the next meeting that we are going to have, and make a work plan that allows us to reach that agenda with all those tasks or with those duties done. And the teams should have, they aren't frequent, the initial meetings are usually done better or worse, the work meetings are done better or worse, the follow-up meetings, I am no longer sure that all the teams will do better, but they should do it, because in some moments we have to reflect on what we have done, on what we have not done and why we have not done it, what things we could have done better and what things within which we could have done better, we decided to do in the next iteration before the next follow-up meeting. And then finally they have the closing meetings, which I am not very sure that they are always done or that they are done in the right way. And these closing meetings should basically have 4 objectives. The first, take some lessons learned, which in essence is to repeat the same thing you do in the follow-up meetings, but thinking about the whole global common project or all the global work that you have done in the team. If it is a team of projects of a certain duration, then you will have it narrowed down and the closure is clearer, but if you have been working in a unit for X years, and that in the end we should also make a reflection on these things. Prevented lessons, or one of the basic aspects, is to complete the documentation that we do not have the pending or hanging documentation. That is, there are tasks in our business case or what you want to have done in the final definition of the project, your results and the documentation that you want to leave for the posterity as a group that you need to leave so that others understand what you have done and we can replicate these initiatives if we had to do it in the future. This normally also begins to fail. You have to complete your platforms, forms, fill the databases with those key or essential data of the group's operation. Another aspect that is probably the only thing that is done in closing meetings is to share the results with the people affected by those results. That is, if someone from your organization has commissioned a task or a team, then in the end you will present the results of your team to that person. If it is for a client, then you will present it to a client. And finally, which this is also usually done, not in all cases, but it is usually done, is that we celebrate the effort made by the team, not only the results, but we celebrate the effort, and that in some way we reward ourselves for all those hours and all that enthusiasm that the people who were part of the team have had. And these meetings, there are probably some things that the person in charge of this team that he should do before the first meeting, or depending on the maturity that the team has and the degree of autonomy that that team has. If the team is very autonomous, probably many of these things we can do even within the scope of the development of the initial meetings. But if not the person in charge, what he will have to do is review that task that someone in the organization is doing. Well, I think this team, or I need this team to be created because I want it to fulfill these functions. Well, the person in charge of this will have to check exactly what the objectives are, what is the framework in which he is going to work, that all this is clarified. Clarify that, and then at the same time think about what are the roles and responsibilities that people who have thought they were going to be in the team can have. With all that, prepare a great work draft that later during the meeting you will contrast it with the people of the team. Well, it is probably something that the team is, as I have said, very, very autonomous, and then all the people who participate in this are normally the people in charge of the team, the one who goes with a proposal. And also identify what the data or relevant information is so that the team can do their job, internal regulations that you have, documentation on the process, how the processes have been done before, how they have tried to do these things in the past, what results they have had, to be able to offer all this information to the people of the team and be able to work with them. Of course, you have to anticipate the necessary logistics for the meeting from the rooms. If you need some kind of catering or some kind of things, then you have to organize it and draft the agenda that you will also distribute or contrast or consult with the people of your team depending on the degree of autonomy that they have. These initial meetings, I have told you that they had 3 objectives. I am going to detail a little more how each of these objectives should be completed. One of the aspects will be that relationships will be built, and basically one of the key things to do is that they are known to each other, especially if it is people who have never worked together or did not know each other previously. From the name, formation, which department you come from or in which areas you have, what skills, what knowledge, why you are in the team, what is supposed to be that you are going to leave the team, how you like to learn, how you work better, how you like to be related to others, that we are understood, because in the end what we want is when you are in the group. You have the confidence that if you have to do something, you can do it without feeling ashamed to tell someone how well they are doing things, and at the same time when you do not agree with others, you can also do it without fear that they will think. If you see something that you think is not appropriate, then you have to have the freedom to say it. You have to have the confidence to say it. You will have to get people to learn how to work in a team, some team building activities, icebreaker types. You can be using small dynamics, games, activities that at the same time can help you get to know each other, not only in technical aspects but in the personal aspect. All this will help a lot because in the end what you are going to achieve is to identify which are the strengths of the people, and the people will be able to put it into play, to know what their strengths are for the group and use those strengths within the group. The important thing is that the group can take advantage of especially our advantages, and that our disadvantages does not harm the group's operation too much. That is the trick or the essential ability that we should have. We have to be very clear in the decisions that are going to be taken and also check that the people in the group understand all the things, not only that they say yes, but that they really understand it, because one of the things that most harm the team is the phrase that I have put in red. I have put it in red because that is what we must avoid, that when you leave a meeting where they are commenting on things, there is someone who tells you that. I thought that what we had decided at the beginning was something else. What we all have to think is that what we have decided, we all think the same thing and we agree on the same thing, because the only way that we are aligned is that we do not have conflicts, and we also have to build in this phase the basic rules of existence. How the turn of words will be done, if it starts and ends punctually, if we are going to accept that ideas are criticized, we have to know that the way in which ideas are criticized so that people do not feel attacked, or that how we are going to interrupt or not, if they are confidential or not, the meetings, to what extent we can move out the things that we talk about inside, how we hope that people behave in the fulfillment of the tasks, a series of things that have to end up building up. What are the rules of the group with which we want to work? Another of the aspects or the fundamental objectives of these initial meetings was to review the letter of functions, why the group has been formed, why it has created the group, what are the limits, how far we can reach, autonomy, dates, results, budgets, what shortcomings we have in the team to achieve these things. If we have these functions and the resources that we have seen before, building this part of knowing the capacities of people, where is the gap and how we can cover that gap, that is, we are capable or we need external support, an expert in some of the techniques, skills, knowledge or information, so that the group can work because we are not able to acquire it and put it within the group. All these types of things we have to see, and for this we also have to establish a work plan where the tasks are cleared, the dates, the responsible people, and what we are going to measure to know when things are. And it is also important within this framework or context of the project to know who we serve, to know who the people who are going to be affected by what we do in the group, what are their needs, and also what are their concerns or expectations regarding what the team is going to provide. And we have to know this, not only the person who leads the group but all the people in the team, so that this works and flows properly. And finally, in the initial meeting or all the fundamental objectives that you have already introduced in the previous transparency, that we learn new tools or skills, that is, if we discover that there is a gap between what we know or what we are capable of doing and what the team needs, and we have decided that we can only incorporate this to the people in the team and use it in the initial meetings to acquire these competencies. Perhaps this also has to be done from time to time throughout the team's trajectory, because you cannot put everything in the initial meeting package, but it is a good time to train and work on these things. This has to do with working methods, with reference frames, with paradigms, with templates that people have to be able to use and use. It also has to do with knowing the processes, being able to know what the tasks are of the processes where the team is going to work, and also how to represent those processes. And sometimes we have to learn how to make those process maps or process diagrams with the terminology or with the symbology that they usually use in the organization. Also have to be able to understand the measures that we are going to have in the team, know how to choose them, how to calculate them, and all this is part of skills that you normally have to learn, because not everyone or all the people when entering the team are able to do all these things. I believe that in these moments you will be able to, on the one hand, justify the importance of the meetings in normal operation of the work teams, and also differentiate the objectives of 4 different types of meetings and some specific details of one of them, which are the initial meetings.